Dennis Harton, as you know. I'm joined by a new friend, Patrick Tolliver, and I met probably late last year as he started a new role. And I'm fascinated with this company, this organization. I felt like with some of the things we're seeing with the market right now, it was really important to get some of their messaging out into the market for my clients, and hopefully there's others that can benefit from the information. So first and foremost, thank you, Patrick, for joining us today. Can you take just a second and tell us about yourself? And then I would like to talk a little bit about Newgentek.
Yeah, I'm the Senior Vice President of Customer Success at Newgentek. Been there for roughly 6 months now, really enjoying it. I've been working in technology since 2000. I spent pretty much a decade as a traveling consultant, and then decided to put all that training and consulting expertise into practice. I was the CIO at a couple of organizations, and then I kind of wanted to get back into consulting, but without the travel, hey, you get a family, you don't necessarily want to be on the road full time. And I've really found a sweet spot for me, which is this customer success role. And to me, it's like coaching both ways. I got to coach clients from a technology perspective, put on I'm their CIO hat. And I also need to coach, my organization to say, hey, here's what I'm seeing in the market. Here's what I'm hearing from clients. It'd be great if we could. So it's really fun. Very, very, very hands-on with clients, which I love. And with Newgentek, and it's just broad base of different types of clients, size of clients, structures of clients. It's actually, it's being so many people's, CIO. It's a lot of fun.
Well, I know it's pretty obvious walking in. So some of the leadership, Sean is the CEO, is a dynamic guy, right? He's very unique from the guys that I've run into in the Tampa market. John Schmidt is phenomenal. And then I got introduced to you. So you can see walking into the environment, there's a good culture there. So that's what I'm always drawn to, is kind of what creates that culture. How do you feel like, my first question with everybody right now lately, especially, has been, how is this impacting your business as an organization? Like, what sort of ramifications are you feeling or seeing, or opportunities? Can you share some of that with just how Newgentek's working through some of this?
Yeah. So we've been set up to work remotely, for a really long time. I mean, we provide 24/7 support. And oftentimes that means, that we need to be able to flex and expand. So that means people working from home sometimes. But having done that, it's helped take clients on the journey as well. And it's really reinforced, remote working as an option. And then it just generates a lot of really good conversations around security and sharing files, sharing data. And it's sort of been a waterfall. We've had numerous clients that okay, everybody's working from home. How do I do that? Well, we need to set up VPN connections, and okay, well, that's a different way of doing business. How do I do that? Oh my gosh, I'm a marketing person, and trying to get these giant files through the VPN is really slow. What do we need to do? And so there's a lot of research and strategy that goes into these discussions, because oftentimes it's not a single thing. Maybe it's a bandwidth limitation issue. Maybe it's a server performance issue. Maybe your actual physical networking gear at your office can't support the secure connectivity that you need. So it's definitely been an interesting journey.
Well, I think it's funny, because I've seen all of a sudden overnight, everybody is working from home. People are using their personal equipment. I mean, we had within our own organization a moment where they're like, hey, everything's got to run through the VPN. But to your point, it was slow. And all of a sudden, everybody's having to be on video conferences. It taxes the system, right? So if you don't have good partners for that, it creates some problems. But the thing that I saw that stood out to me was just, we were already under attack from a security standpoint, right? The phishing scams have gotten pretty elaborate. And people that I thought knew better knew that you can't just openly share whatever, wherever, over whatever platform. Then you started hearing Zoom have some security issues, which, there is no perfect system, but having the right partner, that's what I thought. That story's got to get out, that one, there's people out there that can manage some of this. So what war stories? That's what everybody wants to see. Like, tell me what not to do, right? So
Yeah.
help us. What did we run into that you've seen that might be an issue?
So, and it's worth saying that everybody in technology has been taxed over the last, several months, and everything from distributors, manufacturers. I mean, it has been extremely interesting. I will say the least. But I've got an example. It's a medium-sized business. Um, Recently got a private equity investment, taken over the world in their space. But they've been running on a shoestring IT budget for as long as you can remember. So all of a sudden it's work from home, and they pretty much had a you're not allowed to work from home policy for the longest time. So now we have to switch. They have all desktops, maybe a handful of laptops in the environment. So people are going to be using their home device to connect into their work device, and we need to deploy the proper security measures to allow for that. It is not an ideal situation. So that evolution happens, and then it's, oh, well, these people's laptops, or at-home desktops, can't support it. It's out of date, everything like that. And so all of a sudden we do a rush laptop deployment. We need X number of laptops. We need them, ASAP. We got to configure them for each user, get them delivered. So that's kind of an evolution. And then as soon as everybody starts doing that, the performance is terrible. Okay, well, that's because we have 50 over 50 coming into the from a network perspective, bandwidth perspective, and so everyone's trying to access the same stuff, and it's not going well. Yeah, so we need to increase the pipe. Well, their legacy network hardware, of course, didn't have the ability to go higher than 100 over 100, and they needed to go more than that. So then it was a rush to replace their entire network. And then their phone system, aged phone system, still using a PBX. And oh my gosh, I can't even get phone calls answered. So a rush to deploy a phone system and the necessary networking with new VoIP and power over Ethernet to support that. So it's just kind of like a little bit of a waterfall, and it has absolutely been interesting. You could copy and paste that story across, I can't tell you how many clients. Some weren't impacted as much because, maybe they don't, need as much data, and the server that they had was fine. But it has been interesting, but we are seeing, it stabilized now.
Yeah.
So I think that the light is definitely, very, very bright in the very near future.
So yeah, so we're opening Florida back up, right? I know you guys do a lot in the restaurant space, and they're coming back at what 25% capacity right now, and trying to open up more outdoor space and social distancing. I believe there's going to be some variants and some things that will change that will be lasting effects. But is there any realizations that you feel like people need to know today that can kind of translate into this is today's crisis, right? But there'll be other crises in the future. So what can we do that can make a difference, to protect ourselves a little bit going forward?
Well, I think it's important to note that that we have been forced into making a remote working or work from home decision, right? Everyone's done it. And I think so far everyone has been doing excellent. I mean, our productivity is absolutely through the roof. We are on top of stuff. We are taking the time to fine tune some processes while we have the opportunity. But I mean, we're going to come out of this much, much stronger and more capable than when we started. So I would say, do not let this just fizzle away, right? Because they're saying that this isn't just a one-time thing, right? It's going to come back in 6-8 months, whatever the magic number is. And these events are only going to probably increase. So get prepared, right? It's been interesting, right? Having some of these discussions when you're in a pinch. I need to do X, right now. But talk to your team, get your executives together, talk to your technology provider, and say, we want to make this easier next time. We want to make it completely seamless. What does that look like? And lay out that roadmap. And don't forget to execute, and don't forget to, go back and revisit strategic decisions, every 30, 60, 90 days when you're trying to make some quick measurable change. That's what I would say is don't lose the sense of urgency around some of this stuff, because it is, extremely important. And you mentioned security earlier. I think that this is absolutely a perfect example of we need to be even more secure than what we are. A lot of healthcare and financial institutions, they really, really, really take security seriously. Because they have to, because they're required. But a lot of small, medium businesses say, that's not us. Well, guess what? Hackers are focusing more on, small, medium businesses than ever before, because guess what? Those big financial or healthcare, type institutions, they have the funds, they have the security teams, they have all that stuff, and the likelihood of them getting in is probably less. But hey, there's better hunting somewhere, and so they're going to find it.
Yeah, I think it's. I think the scary part for me, Patrick, is that there's an assumption that these institutions or these companies or these businesses, they look like they're doing well. They got a nice sign. So my assumption is, as a consumer, is that they are safe, right, to share information with. And I don't think that's a safe assumption, right? There's just so much out there. So we have to do what we can to protect ourselves. Certainly helping protect the businesses that are out there. So I think you guys do great work. Clearly, like I said, Newgentek's been recognized as one of the best employers in the Bay Area. And I think, I've seen that from the inside, so I can tout that. That's part of the reason I wanted to get you guys on. There's a lot of people that do some of this work, right? Some disruption is going to happen to business. This just happens to be the thing. It's certainly been disruptive, but there's a lot of efficiencies that have come out of it too. I know you guys build really nice conference room with remote communications equipment that is secure. I've seen some of that equipment in action. The ability for us to communicate and have a very efficient dialogue via Zoom is changing the way business will happen, I think, in the future. So having good partners like you guys, I think, is critical. There's so many talking heads. How do I make sure the people that I know, that I care about, that are my clients, my customers, the people that I want to make sure get the best information, are getting the best resources? Because there's a lot of people talking about it, but there's just not a lot of people that really understand the nuances. So we know you've been doing this for a long time, so this isn't new. So I appreciate you taking a moment to do it. What's the so what? Like, what do we do from here? What do you want people to do? How can you engage with them to make things simple if somebody decided, hey, maybe we're not as on top of this as we need to be?
Yeah, so we had several people going through this. They just weren't sure what to do, right? And so we've done countless exercises of doing an analysis on what it would take, and basically would write up a script for them on what they need to do, either with their existing technology partner, or maybe they have a small internal staff to execute on. But yeah, I mean, we do that stuff for anybody all the time. I mean, we definitely like helping people, and I think you and I, from a business perspective, do things the same way. You're out there educating people in your space, and we do the same thing. And so I think that doing it like that makes a lot of sense, and really earns you the right to have additional conversations. And when and if something comes around in the future, that's great. Yeah. If not, you've got a contact. So we've done a lot of that, and so that's been extremely valuable. And the feedback that we've gotten from clients, and we've been growing through this, because a lot of people didn't have IT staff and they weren't sure where to turn. And so we would have a conversation, and all of a sudden it would be like, okay, I'm going to hit the easy button. I'm going to, bring it in-house to you, or bring it to you guys, because I need the help. A lot of clients are now understanding that you can't not spend money in technology and maintain a business. You just can't these days.
Yeah, I think anybody who's looking at their business and not preparing for a shift is, probably delusional. I hate to say it. I hate the phrase new normal. But there is the future is going to be different than the past, obviously. And I also, the other one that's been wore out is that we are all in this together. But I do appreciate the fact that you guys have taken pretty aggressive steps to help your clients, because they need your stuff. And so even though their businesses are struggling, we know a lot of your key clients have been impacted immensely. Even though you're growing, maybe not everybody's growing. So we are kind of all in this together. So I know you guys have taken a great and a proactive approach to help everybody that you can. And so I appreciate you taking the time. So is there anything else you want to share before we wrap up? I know not everybody wants to hear our two genius minds discuss this. So what's
I would say there's a lot of interesting things that are happening. I would say don't buy into fear selling. Some people are calling you up and saying the sky is falling and you better do X, Y, and Z. Don't do it, right? I mean, just find somebody else if that's what they're doing. You know, just like you, Dennis, you're laying out options. You're educating clients on maybe a course of action or a solution recommendation. That's the way to get things done. Not if I don't get this order in today, then it's going to be a year. You know, I mean, it's you know, to watch out for that. Be extremely cautious with security. I mean, just like you said, the amount of phishing and different ways that people are doing things are amazing. I mean, and how fast they pivot is crazy. Yeah. And remember that security, you know, really starts with the humans. Educate your team. We do a lot of security awareness training for our clients. You know, go through phishing campaigns and educate them and report back out on how well they're doing. And that's been extremely valuable, you know, because if you kind of think about it, in the office environment, if you get a weird email, you get to just shout across the hallway to your partner and say, hey, do you really need me to wire that money to X, Y, and Z? And it's, oh my gosh, you know. But now that there's a little bit of a technology, you know, a distance barrier where, oh my gosh, I'd have to, you know, actually pick up the phone or, you know, open up a chat and ask that question, you know, maybe I'll convince myself to just go ahead and do it. So definitely educate your people. That is, you know, the best thing to do right now from a security perspective.
That's what we need. We need the people who come up with these phishing scams to be working on the coronavirus antidote, right?
Oh, they have it solved.
They've got it. They're all over. I mean, I can tell you that last fall I had someone engage with me in conversation, and it came from a known email address, and I emailed back, and they had a weird request, and I'm like, are you sure you want me to do this? It was actually with a nonprofit thing. They're like, we need you to go get a couple of gift cards for this, which was a red flag in and of itself. And it was kind of weird that they would ask me to do it, but it wasn't that far off base that they would need it for an event coming up. And I reached out to him and said, hey, this seems odd. You know, I know that we probably have this coming up, but is this really the way we need to do this? They're like, no, that's definitely a phishing scam. And I'm thinking, I'm pretty on top of it. Like, I will dismiss most of that stuff really quickly, but this one was good.
They plant millions of seeds a day, and, you know, they'll focus on the ones that grow.
Well, I will tell you that if you need help in this space, I think you guys have a vast network of people and resources. And, you know, you were talking about laptops and some of that. There are people who can't get the equipment they need, the cameras that they need. It sounds like you guys have those resources and suppliers that can help you out. So, and I know businesses that are like you that treat the market well, they're the ones who get favoritism from vendors and other suppliers when they're getting in a pinch like this, right? So I think if you're selling weight equipment right now, toilet paper, hand sanitizer, right? There's webcams, like all these things are all of a sudden you can't get them to save your life. So it's interesting. So I appreciate the work you guys are doing. Thanks for taking the time. Tell the team back at the office I said hello, and we look forward to getting your message out. Thanks so much.
No, I appreciate it. And, you know, we're here to help if anybody needs to contact, you know, would love to. And Dennis, thank you, man. I mean, you had to hound me just a little bit to get it done, but I mean, I really appreciate it. And I think the platform really makes a lot of sense. So thanks, man.
It's a real problem. So you know, it was important to me to get good information out to people who need it. So anyway, thank you so much. Trusted partners are hard to find. So we appreciate you guys being out there.
Well, I appreciate being a member of the club.
All right. Thanks so much.
All right, thanks,
have a great day.
See you.